I landed some good stuff in there, but I don't know, something is just, it's hard to sometimes pull the trigger now, I guess. I don't have that killer inside. I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but I hesitate a little bit now. I don't know what to say. It wasn't my best performance.
Are you feeling that as you get older and you have more things happening in your life, that you're changing as a fighter?
Yeah, as a man, I feel like God has really called me the last little while, and I don't know, he's changed my spirit, changed my heart, and it takes a certain spirit to come in here and put a man through pain and stuff, and I don't know if I have that same drive to hurt people anymore. I don't know what it is, but it's confusing, but I know the Lord has something in store for me, but he was speaking to me in here tonight, and I don't know, it's a different feeling.
What's going on, everybody? This is episode 65 of Combat Docket Radio. Kurt and Ben, we're back here to break down everything going on in the MMA world. We missed a lot. How you been doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Just hanging in there. We did miss a lot, but not like nothing earth shattering. It was just kind of the MMA wheels kept on turning,
Yeah. MMA never stops. We may take breaks and we may have life that catches up, but MMA does not stop. So, we missed a lot. One big thing I do want to talk about before we talk about the most recent stuff is Bellator 220. It happened, like 2 weeks ago now? And my big takeaway, and I think everyone's big takeaway, was not only the result of the main event, but one Rory MacDonald's comments after. So obviously Rory MacDonald and John Fitch fought to a draw in the main event, which I thought was pretty shocking. I thought that was a really... I don't think John Fitch is an easy fight for anybody, but John Fitch at 41 years old, obviously on the tail end of his career, seemed like a really nice matchup for Rory to kind of get back on his high horse after that, mauling at the hands of Gegard. And there was some I guess, like, shocking things that were said and, some alarming things in that Gegard fight. But, it seems to have carried over now into this fight with John Fitch. Rory said maybe he just doesn't have that killer instinct anymore and doesn't have the drive to hurt people. How alarmed are you by his comments after that performance?
Immediately after the performance, I was pretty shocked. That's just not something you expect anybody to hear to get on the mic after a draw. The draw itself was pretty shocking, just the outcome of the fight. I'm looking at the odds now, and
I did think Rory won, by the way. I didn't think it was a draw. I thought Rory won that fight.
Yeah, that was the vibe I got too. I wasn't, honestly, because I thought there's no way this is going to be close. I wasn't really paying super close or like scoring it round by round, and I haven't rewatched it since. I do know Rory closed. I'm looking at the odds right now as a minus 526 favorite. The outcome of the fight was shocking. It's shocking to hear a fighter get on the mic and basically say, I don't really have the desire to hurt anyone anymore. And him talking about his faith and whatnot. And he's kind of having this literally a come to Jesus moment in front of us all. It's shocking. At the same time, though, it's like, you don't really know his headspace. You've competed, I've competed. People kind of know. Sometimes you go through that in the middle of a competition where you start thinking, what am I doing? Why am I here? You kind of lose your tunnel vision. And I get the sense that that's what he had literally in the middle of this fight is he starts thinking, is this what God wants me to do? What am I doing? The post-fight comments, yes, shocking, but it's also kind of like, I think he's just a very real individual sometimes. And he was just saying what was on his mind after 25 minutes of fighting. He's since kind of retracted it and said, I want to keep on fighting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he's a weird dude, man. Like, I feel like we've heard him talk about the greatest moment of his life was that Robbie Lawler fight that he lost. He kind of has a serial killer vibe to him for sure. He's an odd character. It's shocking to hear him say, I have a problem hurting people, but I also think he's just kind of laying it all out there and letting us know how he feels. And I'm sure he was confused. He just went through a whole lot. I hope people, I didn't really want to bash him or anything for his thoughts. I think he was just being really candid after the fight.
I greatly respect his thoughts. I
Yes.
thought it was one of the best post-fight interviews I've seen for someone to, go through a fight like that and just kind of, not make up some bullshit excuse and say, I apologize, I'll be out there, looking to finish the next time. He actually said how he was feeling. But, again, I don't know. I mean, Rory, you talked about the Lawler fights. I mean, he's been in some fights that have taken, the proverbial years off the life thing. He just had a baby. He's married. I don't know, man. It might all just be catching up to him. Like, I thought, the fresh start in Bellator, he smoked Paul Daly. He finally got that title. I thought it was going to be smooth sailing for Rory MacDonald. And I didn't really pick him against Gegard, but obviously I thought it was going to be a hell of a fight. He got steamrolled against Gegard. And now, going to a draw with John Fitch at 41 years old, not to knock John Fitch, but I don't know, man. I really don't know what to think about Rory. And now he's going to be jumping right back in there with Neiman Gracie. And again, my thing was when they first announced this tournament, Neiman Gracie was the one guy where I was I could probably do without him. I'd probably rather see Lorenz Larkin in here. And now, with the state of Rory, Neiman Gracie might be the Bellator champion. What is it, next month? I think June 22nd, I want to say, or something, is when they're running that fight. That fight's coming up quick. Rory doesn't seem to be in the best frame of mind. We could be looking at a new Bellator champion very soon.
Yeah, for sure. That was absolutely my thought. It was if this is the same Rory MacDonald that shows up against Neiman Gracie, he's going to get submitted. If Rory MacDonald is thinking, I don't want to hurt people, I want to just grapple with Neiman Gracie, that's not going to bode well for him. This feels like a huge opportunity. And I don't think they've opened up odds yet on that fight. But I think people are going to be shocked. Neiman Gracie, I'm not saying he's going to be the odds favorite, but he might be, just based on these comments and then this kind of lackluster performance against John Fitch.
Yeah, I would say it's going to be very close, odds-wise. I don't think Neiman Gracie would be the favorite, but I think it'll be pretty close. By the way, what was your thoughts on, I guess, how they, Rory MacDonald advancing in the tournament? I don't think they really expected a draw, but do you think that was fair for Rory to just keep the belt and advance, or I guess was that their only choice?
I think it's both fair and their only choice. I mean, fair because he is the champion. He fought to get that belt, so he gets the benefit of the doubt. And, since they are all fighting for the belt and he's the champ, just as any other champion would work, any other championship would work, as if there's a draw, the champion keeps his belt and continues on in the tournament. I mean, they don't have time to reschedule a rematch. I know that much. And it's not like they're going to advance John Fitch. The only way that they would advance John Fitch is if Rory MacDonald sticks by those comments and is I'm done fighting.
Right.
But I'm fine with him advancing in the tournament for sure.
Yeah, me too. It was just very weird, the draw, the comments, I don't know, everything. And I don't know, we're going to see really quick where Rory MacDonald might come out next month and smoke Neiman Gracie and kind of, hush all the doubters, and or he might get smoked himself. I don't know. But I think it brings a lot more intrigue to this tournament. And I'm so glad that they're really moving along this tournament too.
Yeah, they're keeping momentum. I love it.
All right. So let's move on. So this past weekend, we had UFC live from Ottawa, Canada, with a fantastic main event. Donald Cerrone. I mean, dude, Donald Cerrone is. I mean, we've seen this throughout his career. You start thinking he's done, and then he comes back and he goes on this streak. Dude, I was a little worried. I really like Cerrone at 55, but did you see him stepping on the scale the other day?
I did. He did not look well
Dude,
at all.
he looked terrible. He looked really bad. So I was a little bit worried, but man, that was arguably one of Donald Cerrone's best performances of his career. I'm super high on Ally Aquinta. And for Cerrone to put on that kind of performance against Al, dude, I was blown away again by Donald Cerrone. I mean, you can't heave enough superlatives on this guy. He's the man. Plain and simple, he's the man.
Yeah, and as much as it was a vintage Donald Cerrone performance, with all the kickboxing and kind of attacking Iaquinta's legs, things like that, it did. I agree with you that it might have been like the best version of him we've seen yet, because his boxing, which has always kind of been his Achilles heel, he doesn't have great hands. His boxing, I thought, looked really good, actually moving his head to avoid punches. He did get hit a few times by Iaquinta, and I still think
held up though.
His chin did hold up. I still think there's, the longer he stays at 155 at his age, there's always going to be kind of questions about his durability. Because the weight cut, I don't think is doing him any favors at all there. Not, I guess maybe he doesn't want to face the hard hitters at 170 either. But I did think in general his boxing looked way improved. Arguably he outboxed. I mean, I think Iaquinta with punches at least probably landed the harder overall shots, but I think in general Cerrone outboxed him, which I don't think many people expected. Great performance. I don't know kind of where he goes next, but I think you could definitely make the argument that was the best version of Donald Cerrone we've ever seen.
Donald Cerrone goes up, man. Listen, Donald Cerrone's stock is at the highest it's ever been. Everybody loves him. He's a household name, even to the casuals. He's one of those guys without a title that everybody knows. After his win with over Alexander Hernandez, the fight to make was Conor McGregor. Now, even more so, the fight to make is Conor McGregor. That is it. I mean, listen, you have Poirier, he's going to fight Khabib. You have Tony Ferguson, who deserves the winner of that. You can't give Conor a title. You want to put Conor back in the title mix. Get him in there with a guy like Cowboy, who is on the rise. Cowboy's 36 years old. He's not going to be fighting forever. The UFC, I'm sure, would love to have Cowboy in another title fight. That's the only fight. Cowboy versus Conor. I agree with Conor. That guy should not be in a co-main event. And this is one fight where you could build for a main event of a pay-per-view. Sorry to whatever champion, but put a title fight under it. But let's go. Cowboy versus Conor. That's the fight to make, man.
Yeah, sign me up for it. I think that makes a lot of sense for both of them. I think I've seen Cerrone Gaethje kind of thrown out there as a possibility. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, any Gaethje fight is sign me up for. I would be in for it, but I'd rather see Tony versus Gaethje, honestly.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
I still think that's a possibility.
Yeah. The thing with Conor is, so like right now there's not a ton of like beef between Conor and Cowboy.
But they've had their
words. And what I was going to say is we've seen McGregor at the drop of a hat can manufacture a beef. If he sends out a few tweets directed at Cowboy, or if he says something to one of Cowboy's teammates or slaps him, God forbid, anything, any sort of beef can be, I don't want to say necessarily manufactured, but that's really is what Conor can do. He can alone build a fight and make it huge. Obviously any Conor McGregor fight is going to be huge. Just because there's not like a huge beef between him and Cowboy right now doesn't mean that they can't build that. And then put on a huge fight later in the year.
Yeah, I agree, man. Let's say, I think the winner of that fight, obviously they want Conor in a title fight eventually. He gets a win over Cowboy. I think you can now justify that. And again, Cowboy, I think at his age where he is, I think one win, especially over Conor McGregor, gets him another title shot. I mean, that's it, right? You got the Poirier Khabib, you have Tony, then you have the Gaethje Cowboy Conors of the world, right? That's like the next tier. I mean, I think it makes the most sense. I think it would sell a bunch of tickets. Like I said, you put a title fight in the co-main event. If there's one guy that can headline a pay-per-view without a title being on the line, it's Conor.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, the lightweight division, I'm staring at the rankings right now. Obviously,
it's insane.
Champ is Khabib, but the top 5 is like the best it's ever been, I think, in terms of violence, like fan viewing. The top 5 is Poirier, all violence. Ferguson, all violence. Conor McGregor, all violence. Donald Cerrone, definitely all violence. And Justin Gaethje, probably the most violent fighter we've ever seen. So right now that whole top 5, top 6 at lightweight is lit.
Yeah, it's insane, man. I love it. Tough break for Al, but I think it's tough. It's tough to gauge where Al is too, right? Because Al's always been that guy that does what he wants. Like, he doesn't need to fight. He'll only fight if he gets the right offer. Obviously Cowboy would have been a big step for him to get back to like that Khabib fight. Where do you think Al goes from here?
I think his stock did. I mean, his stock didn't raise here necessarily, but he's also, he's ranked at number 6. He just went 25 minutes with Cowboy Cerrone. So I think he's,
tough as hell too.
Yeah,
man.
I think
Al
he
is
should
a
still
tough
be
motherfucker.
absolutely considered, in that top 10 realm. And looking at potential matchups, kind of there's several guys in that top 10 coming off losses, I believe. Edson Barboza feels like a possibility.
Edson Barboza, that's always a fun one.
But then, you go down, Paul Felder, I'd love to see that. Gregor Gillespie, I wouldn't mind seeing that. Even Alexander Hernandez, the last guy that lost to Cerrone.
I don't know if he'll fight Gregor Gillespie because they're both Long Island
right.
guys. I want to say they train together at times, but you never know. Gillespie is an interesting one. He needs a big step up pretty soon. But I don't know if it would be against Al.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But Barboza, Felder, I'm in for either of those two.
Yeah, Al Iaquinta is another guy who's kind of a violence fighter, so sign me up for any of those options. Lightweight's an embarrassment of riches right now.
Agreed. Co-main event, Derek Brunson beats Elias Theodorou. Not the most exciting fight. I don't know, man. I don't have much to say about that. Brunson gets the big win. Definitely a needed win. I don't think it really lowers Elias's stock too much, but
No,
not
yeah,
too much to say about it.
I like Elias personally. He's always been super
too.
friendly when I chat with him. Super interactive on Twitter. But he's been open and honest on Twitter about like, that was not a good performance. I got to change some shit up. I know that I looked silly out there. So, props to him. Very few fighters come out and are that open after a loss, but props to him for doing it.
Agreed. Shane Burgos gets a big win over Cub Swanson. Shouldn't have been a split decision. I thought he clearly won that fight. Tough to see if you're a Cub fan. That's, I think, 4 losses in a row. Cub's getting up there in age too. He's got a lot of miles on his body. We might start to, but again, like you look at the losses in that 4 in a row, it's crazy. Brian Ortega, Frankie Edgar, Renato Moicano, Shane Burgos, all studs. So he's still fighting the best, but he's definitely not at his peak right now.
Yeah, no. I would ideally like to see Swanson start getting like, I don't want to say gimme fights, but very, very winnable fights on his way out. Cause he doesn't look shot or anything at all. But he's getting up there in age.
Doesn't.
4 losses in a row basically disqualifies him completely from any sort of title contention in the future. Put him in there with pretty winnable fights. I would have no problem with him retiring in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and Shane Burgos, man, is an interesting cat. He's only got the 1 loss to Calvin Kattar, but
which was a great fight.
Great fight. Yeah, he's another all-action fighter. He's got great striking. He's tough as nails. Featherweight division still trucking. The top is a little bit cloudy with what Max is going to do, but you got guys like Burgos coming up, taking out vets like Cub Swanson. So that'll be interesting to see where he goes. You have anything else on this card? Anything else we want to point out? We don't have to go through all the rest.
No, man, I think that was it. That was another kind of top-heavy card where I was kind of waiting for the main event to happen the whole time.
I am very impressed with Macy Chiasson.
Oh, yes. She had some trouble making 135, but if she can consistently make 135, watch out for her. Just on her size and athleticism. You don't see a lot of bantamweight women knocking out people like that or putting that kind of hurt on other women.
Yeah, she's a big girl. But again, she's a stud and she was produced from The Ultimate Fighter. So still in 2019, I guess they are producing solid fighters. She moves to 5-0. So she's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't have anything else on this UFC Ottawa card, let's jump to this weekend's cards. And first, let's talk about UFC 237 happening in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It is headlined by women's strawweight title fight between Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade. Honestly, this is one of my favorite divisions in MMA. I love this fight. I give Rose credit for going to Brazil in Andrade's backyard. And man, I think Andrade, just started off the talk, is one of the toughest fights for Rose in that division. I think she matches up really well with Rose. I think Andrade at 115 is dude, she's just a powerhouse, man. She's big for the weight. Her pressure is insane. Her cardio is insane. She's tough. She moves forward. She has great wrestling. The only pause I have on that is, Rose, if Rose is able to work from space and keep Andrade off her, she's going to land a lot. We kind of saw Joanna do that to Andrade. So I'm kind of on the fence with this one. When it was first announced, I was very big on Andrade, and while I still think I am on the Andrade train to pick her, I think if Rose, and again, Rose herself has excellent cardio. She does not slow down at all. I still think I'm picking Andrade. It just gives me pause if Rose is able to sit on the outside and start really picking her off and landing her shots. I think that could drastically change the how this fight goes.
Yeah, man. I think, per usual, you and I kind of see fights similar. And I was the same as I initially, when this fight was announced, or even before it was announced, we kind of had this Andrade, Joanna, Rose kind of trio at the top of the division. I always kind of thought Andrade has the game to beat Rose. And that's a huge part of that is just she is, like you said, I think male or female of any weight class, she is one of the most physically dominating fighters in MMA. Like at her weight class at 115, it's incredible what she can do. You saw her toss around Tisha Torres. You saw her fucking knock out Karolina Kowalkiewicz with a punch, which is not something you see a lot at 115, hardly at all. You saw her just totally physically dominate Claudia Gadelha. So I initially had always kind of thought this is Andrade's fight to lose, just style-wise, because in the past with Rose, particularly against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, you saw Rose kind of get overwhelmed by pressure and physicality, to be honest, and pace. That said, though, I've actually flipped. I'm going to very slightly favor Rose in this matchup for a few reasons. One is, we got to see her go 5 rounds in a pretty gritty, tough fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Obviously, that's not the same fight because it was basically all on the feet. Andrade is, I'm sure, going to try to put Rose on her back a little bit. But that said, Rose fought full 25 minutes against Joanna there, looked good, didn't slow down, actually turned it on and won the 5th round. So to me, that shows, she has championship level cardio, championship level grit, championship level composure, all those good things. I do think, just like you said, if Rose is given space on the feet, I think she's gonna pick apart Andrade. I actually think Rose is the best technical boxer that she has faced. That includes Joanna. So I think Rose will be able to handle her in space. And I think if it does hit the mat, which I expect it will at least once, because Andrade is a fucking powerhouse. When she decides to get a takedown, she can get it. I think if it does hit the mat, Rose is so aggressive and creative that she's going to either slow down a ton of Andrade's ground and pound, or she's just going to totally stifle her there, or even sweep her. I wouldn't be surprised. Andrade is not the most technical fighter on the ground or on the feet. So I think even if Andrade gets it to the mat, she's in trouble there. But of course, man, like I said at the top, Jessica Andrade, the most physically dominating fighter, I think, in any weight class. So she's always in any fight that she takes at 115, she's going to have a chance at winning. I just favor Rose ever so slightly here due to her work on the feet. I think she's going to kind of razzle dazzle a little bit on the feet and pick her apart with boxing.
Yeah, I could see it. But But I'm still leaning on Andrade, man. I think Andrade is going to be able to get Rose down and bully her and get in her face enough to where it starts to frustrate Rose. You know, Rose is a very emotional girl, and again, like you said, she kept everything together in that gritty fight with Joanna. But I think she does get frustrated. We've seen it before. She gets frustrated in training. She gets frustrated with herself. I think Andrade is going to be in her face enough to where she frustrates Rose, gets her off her game a bit, and just starts to pile it on. I'm taking Andrade. I think it'll be close. I don't really see a finish, but I'm taking Andrade in a really gritty, nasty Andrade type of fight.
Yeah, man, I think it's super close. And I do think it's also worth mentioning that Andrade has pretty insane cardio herself. I mean, she took a beating against Joanna and just kept coming for the full fight. So yeah, I think Rose here in exactly the type of fight you're describing, a gritty, tough fight. I just favor Rose ever so slightly. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of like split decision shenanigans here.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a really well matched fight, and honestly, one of the better title fights of any division.
It is, absolutely, man. I love this division. It's a lot of really good fighters in it. You got to think, man. Tatiana Suarez is waiting in the wings for this winner. She's coming hard, man. She's a stud. So I love this division. I love this fight. I think it's going to be a great one.
Yeah, agreed. And yeah, definitely the best division. I'm looking at the rankings. Freaking Weili Zhang, who is somebody we have not even talked about. This Chinese woman is ranked 6th in the world in the UFC. And she's also looking incredible. This division is far and away the most stacked women's division. You look at the other two, because I don't even want to include featherweight, and it's like night and day how talented this division is.
Yeah, right. I agree, man. So after that, it kind of thins out. So again, like now we talked about it a couple shows ago, like you have to actually have the ESPN Plus app to order pay-per-views, which is ridiculous. And also they're not going to be releasing pay-per-view numbers. But traditionally, like looking at this card would not, hardcore fans like us were loving that main event and a couple of the other fights. But after that, man, it thins out. This is not the best card. I would give this like maybe 120,000 buys if I had to put like a number on it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll do well. And they tried to, Anderson Silva's on this card, but I don't think as a co-main event, and especially he's fighting Jared Cannonier, who's basically an unknown commodity by the vast majority of casual fans. I don't think Anderson Silva as a co-main event is going to boost a ton of buys. You got Jose Aldo Volkanovski, which is a phenomenal fight, but that's not even the co-main event. It's not even on I assume it might be on the poster, but it's not even the second from
It's on the poster.
And Aldo is not a big seller. Obviously Volkanovski is not either, but then yeah, after that, it really thins out. I mean, we got, I guess, BJ Penn, which is kind of depressing, but he's on this card.
We'll talk about that. The co-main event is very weird. It was a very weird pairing for Anderson. I don't really know where Anderson's at. This feels like it should be his swan song, coming to Brazil, but he seems like he wants to keep fighting. Jared Cannonier was just a very, very weird opponent for him. I mean, Cannonier's coming off a big win, against David Branch, but it's like you put Anderson, like, okay, so I get if you want to put Anderson in with somebody that you value as a commodity for your company, right? Like if he wins, all right, now you have that. If he loses, it's Anderson Silva, right? But like Cannonier doesn't strike me as that guy that like they want to give a big push to, if you know what I'm saying. So this one was just a weird pairing.
Yeah, very weird.
And I think I don't know what the odds are, but if Cannonier is a dog, and he might not be, I think he's a super live dog in this.
I don't know. Let me look at the odds. Actually, this feels like a fight that Anderson Silva should definitely win. Let's see.
He should, but
Cannonier is minus 150. And I think that is, he's a small favorite. I think that's all just a fade. That's people. I think that's just us writing off Anderson Silva too early.
Well, Anderson Silva's he is 43 years old.
But he just looked honestly very good, I thought, against Israel Adesanya. And this is only a 3-round fight.
That's why,
I don't know.
That's why this fight is super puzzling to me. I can't, it's one of those fights I can't really get a read on, like why they made it, What's going to happen? I don't know. I think Anderson Silva is going to win. I want Anderson. I don't want to say I want. Yes, I do. I want Anderson Silva to win. But I don't know. I can't get a read on it.
Yeah, I like I said, I favor Silva here pretty strongly. I mean, Cannonier, I think he came into the UFC as a heavyweight even, so he's a big guy. He hits hard, but he does not have a great ground game. He's not going to be able to like pressure Silva and hold him against the fence. And I think if you give Silva space to work, which Cannonier I think will, he's still one of the absolute best in the world. And Cannonier has never been in there with anybody close to this level. I don't think I guess the win over Branch is a big one, but before that, a loss to Dominic Reyes. Like the level of competition here is just such a huge step up for Cannonier. I got to favor Silva.
Yeah, I guess I favor Silva too. I don't know. It's just a weird one for me. I think Silva can go.
It seems like just a silly booking. It just seems like, oh, here's a middleweight that we can throw him in there with. Let's do it.
Yeah, it was a very weird booking. I'm with you. I think Anderson wins. I think he has more tools to win. It is still Anderson Silva, and he did look good against Adesanya. So yes, give me Anderson Silva.
I'm glad I could convince you.
Big one here, man. Featherweight, big title, not big fight with title implications. Jose Aldo taking on Alexander Volkanovski. What was it that was going on with Aldo not too long ago? Didn't he have like a blood infection or something crazy like that?
He did. I can't remember the exact. I want to say it was like a knee infection. I could be wrong, but he was like out of training for a while apparently.
Yeah, something weird was going on with him. But I guess he's cleared because we're now 4 days away from the fight and we haven't heard anything about it. So he's taking on Alexander Volkanovski, who is hard charging in that division. Obviously, if Volkanovski wins this fight, he's definitely going to get a title fight. Coming off that big one over Chad Mendes, Darren Elkins before that. I don't know where necessarily Aldo goes from here. Like, if he wins, do they do a third fight with Holloway after the first two are pretty damn convincing? I don't know. I'm just in it for the fight, man. I think this is going to be a great fight. Aldo has looked really, really good lately, like vintage Aldo. And we've seen him in the past kind of pick apart fighters like Volkanovski, right? I mean, he beat Chad Mendes, he beat Ricardo Lamas, he beat Frankie Edgar. Those short, stocky, in-your-face wrestler type of guys. Like, he's beat them multiple times in his career. Where are you leaning here, man?
I'm leaning towards Aldo. Basically for the reason that you just said, this has typically been the type of fighter that Jose Aldo is feasted on. Maybe not feasted on. He had a really close fight in the rematch with Chad Mendes. But this just, I would be absolutely shocked if Volkanovski is able to take him down. And while Volkanovski is pretty good on the feet, I would he pieced up Mendes. He also got hit by Chad Mendes on the feet.
He got hit a lot by Chad.
Volkanovski is a hard hitter, very, very fast. And I think, these might be the two best athletes, especially with Mendes retired. These might be the two best athletes at 145. I don't know, man. Volkanovski is dangerous, is what I'm trying to say, just based on his athleticism, his speed, and he does have some boxing skill, but he got hit against Mendes. I think Aldo is going to be able to hit him. I think the fact that this is just a 3-round fight really, really favors Jose Aldo here, because if this was 5 rounds, I'd say, all right, maybe Volkanovski, who has a lot fewer fight miles on him, can drag this into the later rounds. But I see Aldo defending takedowns and countering and just generally landing harder, heavier shots on Volkanovski. Maybe Volkanovski gets through and takes the 3rd round, but you only need the first 2, man. So I lean Aldo here quite a bit heavier than what the odds have it. Let me see. I was just looking at him. Right now, Aldo's just a slight favorite around -140, -130. I think, man, this just feels like his fight to lose. I guess the only thing that gives me pause is he's talked about retirement openly, which is typically a sign that, a guy's kind of starting to check out a little bit. But that said, it's in Brazil. you got to think he's motivated here. I like Aldo here by decision.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm definitely for Aldo, especially after his last two performances over Jeremy Stevens, Renato Moicano. I think he's looked really, really good. And yeah, in that Mendes fight, Volkanovski was hit, and he was hit hard. Aldo, dude, he is still so fast. His reflexes are still great. He's going to be chopping those leg kicks. And again, even if you get to Aldo's legs or put him on his butt, he's so fast at getting up. I don't think Volkanovski is going to be able to even get him to his butt. And if he does, I don't think he's going to be able to bank any time on the mat. And like you said, man, he's kind of feasting on these type of fighters throughout his career. I'm all in on Aldo as well.
Yeah, it should be good though. And also, like, while I'm picking Aldo here, I don't want to say I don't want to see Jose Aldo lose because he's one of my favorite fighters, but a Volkanovski win here would get me so hyped because that means he is the realest of real deals. And a fight between Volkanovski and Holloway or whatever, man, sign me up. Because you and I have been super high on Volkanovski, and I think we're still pretty high on him. I just think it's a tough stylistic matchup here.
It's a tough one. But yeah, like you said, if he does pull it off and he does win, he is the real deal and he deserves a title fight. So a lot of stakes in that one. After that, card kind of thins out. Thiago Alves fighting some dude, Laureano Staropoli, who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. But Alves got a win in his last fight in Brazil, so it's good to see him win. That guy's still kicking it. Trinaldo and Carlos Diego Ferreira's kicking off the main card. Little Nog's fighting. We haven't seen him in a while. He's got to be getting pretty damn close to retiring. He's still, he's 42 years old. Holy fuck. Beat Sam Alvey in his last fight. So, man, I mean, there's a couple guys like, between him, Anderson, God bless his soul, BJ Penn, that maybe they'll all call it a career on this night. Obviously for Anderson and Nog, winning in Brazil would be nice. I don't think Anderson's going to do it, though. I think Nogueira might if he wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't think Silva seems like he still wants to fight for a long time for whatever reason. Nogueira, with his brother being retired and whatnot, and seems to be doing well. I don't know. And Nogueira's in a winnable fight. He's against Ryan Spahn is an athletic dude, but nowhere near the same amount of skill as Nogueira.
Yeah, and then we go to BJ Penn. I mean, this one is tough on many levels. Not only am I a big BJ Penn fan, and I think he should have retired years ago, but it also came out that he was dealing with some domestic violence issues, which, love the fighter, hate the fighter. I mean, that's unacceptable for any fighter. So there's that. I don't even know the results of, what happened. I think, do you even know what came about that?
From his domestic violence stuff, I think it's still, as far as I know, his partner just has a restraining order against him. And there was some pretty nasty allegations leveled against him about drug abuse and things like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
I wish the UFC would address that. Or even if it's just to say, even if the UFC just says we're going to let the legal process play out, this is not even if they just kind of take a back seat, which would not be ideal. It's better than just saying nothing and acting like this is not news. It's really weird that they're not even addressing it at all.
Yeah, it is very weird. And they never do, but you never want to see that, man. But I mean, on top of that, it just, this guy needs to stop fighting. I love BJ, but he needs to stop fighting. I mean, who was his last fight against, dude? Ryan Hall, he got heel hooked. I mean, that felt like the one where it was like...
They gave him a fight that was safe.
Right. Not necessarily safe because Ryan Hall's a beast on the ground, but it was like not somebody that was going to just beat him up on the feet. I mean, Clay Guida still got that motor. He could fight forever. He can get takedowns. I mean, BJ's takedown defense is not where it used to be. Striking's not where it used to be. Again, man, I hope Penn could just get a win and finally just, hopefully that's what he wants and he can leave because, I mean, at this point, he's just tarnishing the legacy. I mean, BJ was a legend and now, we talked about it a while ago after his last fight, these fans are coming in now that see BJ Penn, they just see a 16-13-2 record. and they have no idea who BJ Penn was. I mean, this guy was literally one of the best fighters of his decade, of his era, and it has just gone so sour now.
Yeah. And his last win was against Matt Hughes in 2010. And it is sad. I mean, you think about that lightweight run he had when he beat, Sean Shirk and Diego Sanchez and Kenny Florian. He's just seemed like you could walk on water.
He was unstoppable.
Somebody on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, pointed out that like now the years of BJ, there's been more years of bad BJ Penn than there have been good. Like more of his career has been taken up by this stretch of losses where he's clearly way past his prime than his actual prime. Man, it's very disappointing to see.
It is. It really is. I mean, what kind of chance do you give him in this fight?
I mean, the only way that I could see him winning is if Guida, who is not always the most defensively sound. I mean, Guida walked right into a Charles Oliveira guillotine, if I remember correctly.
He did.
So maybe BJ Penn can like take his back on the mat and expose him that way, but I don't think I give him a very good chance. I mean, the odds right now put Penn at a plus 450 underdog, and that sounds right to me, to be honest. I don't know the exact percentage on that, but that's like maybe a 15% chance, 10% chance.
That's a big underdog.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We'll see. I hope he gets to win, but it's a tough one. Anything else from this card you want to go over? I think we covered it, most of it.
Yeah, no, I mean those are the big ones. Definitely very hyped about Aldo Volkanovski in the main event.
Yeah, me too. Should be a fun card. Usually the cards that kind of fly under the radar turn out to be very good. We also have some other MMA coming up this weekend. PFL is kicking off their second season on Thursday, May 9th. It's going to be headlined by Kayla Harrison taking on Larissa Pacheco. Maybe I butchered that. Pacheco. She's 11-2. Fought in the UFC twice. Lost both of the fights, but big step up for Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see. I think, PFL putting together this 155-pound women's division is basically just for her. But it's also worth noting they signed, I was about to say Sarah McMahon. Why am I blanking on her name? Sarah Kaufman. I don't know why I blanked on that. Who is, a natural 135-pound fighter, but she is also a former world champion. And very, very good. I assume that's kind of where everybody is looking is, Kayla Harrison has a stiff test in front of her here with Larissa Pacheco.
Very, very stiff.
But I think most people are really thinking eventually Kayla Harrison's going to fight Sarah Kaufman, and then we'll see how that shakes out. It's very interesting.
Kayla Harrison's just a big girl. Like, she's thick. She's well built. I know she's talked in the past about dropping down to 145, obviously for the Cyborg fight. But yeah, she's a big girl, man. And Sarah Kaufman's actually on this card. She's fighting Morgan Freire, who's 4-1. So you get a look at Sarah Kaufman. Ray Cooper III is on this card. I think he was one of the big, even though he didn't win that tournament, I think he was one of the best stories from that first season. And Chris Curtis is on this card. If you remember, Chris Curtis was the guy that had that amazing knockout on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. And for whatever reason, he did not get a contract. He retired, but he's back. So he's on this card. John Howard's on the card. So I'm excited to see PFL back. And I hope they do good things because I really enjoyed that first season.
Yeah, I loved PFL was one of my favorite stories all last year. The production, the fights, the fact that all right, this is what is coming next because it's a tournament and the point situation, everything. Ray Cooper III was a huge kind of breakout star from that. I'm very pumped to see what happens this season. Also worth noting, interesting fact, which I'm sure the PFL broadcast will talk about a lot. Ray Cooper III is fighting his cousin.
What? Really?
Yeah. They both train in Hawaii. I think maybe even on the same island, obviously separately. But I'm pretty sure blood relation cousin.
Do they have beef or something to where they want to fight? That seems like a really odd booking.
I don't know if
they just don't care.
I don't know if they have beef, but there's no qualms about them fighting each other, from what I understand.
Wow, that is very strange. Anyways, that's interesting. So, and then on, let's see, is it Saturday? Or
the 11th is the Bellator.
Yeah, event. Saturday. Okay, so we have a huge Bellator card coming up. I guess huge main card, I should say, right? Coming up from the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. Always, man, Bellator goes to some weird spots.
Well, Rosemont is a Chicago suburb. I think most people consider it Chicago. Okay. Yeah, but it's still you can't take the train. You have to take an Uber or drive to get out there.
It's not Thackerville, Oklahoma.
No, it's not Thackerville, but it's like Rosemont. This arena is when the WWE comes through Chicago. That's where they go.
Oh, okay. All right. I apologize, Rosemont, Illinois, and Thackerville, Oklahoma. I'm sure that's a lovely spot too. Anyways, huge main event, huge co-main event, and also probably 2 or 3 other really big fights on the card. But we get Michael Chandler taking on Patricio Pitbull. Pitbull's jumping up to 155. Love this fight. Love both those guys. I think they're both top 10 fighters. I think either of those guys could beat anyone in the world on any given day in their respective weight classes. Man, dude, I'm hyped anytime Michael Chandler fights. I think we were talking about the UFC's all action guys. Michael Chandler is an all action, all violence guy. And him and Pitbull have jawed at each other a ton. You remember a couple years ago, Chandler knocked out Pitbull's brother savagely, Patricio. The Pitbull brothers are always beefing with people, right? They're hilarious. Dude, I'm amped for this one.
Yeah, great fight between Bellator homegrown talent, man. And props to Patricio for moving up a weight class. I favor Chandler here, just, size, athleticism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's worth noting, I actually do think Chandler is kind of slowing down a little bit. And that's just because, the nature of his game is all power, kind of all gas all the time.
Have you seen him train too? He literally trains exactly how he fights.
Just insane.
The guy's an animal.
And that's for me, that's what makes him so exciting to watch is, he's just so explosive and powerful. But, in the Brett Primus rematch, I thought he kind of slowed down a little bit, leaned on his wrestling. I want to say I don't want to say lay and pray, but he definitely leaned on his ground game more than he typically does there. And I think if he needs to, he can do that here against Pitbull. But I think it's a great fight, man.
But let me counter that point though, right? So I think, in my opinion, while I agree with you, I think the opponent allowed him to do that. I think Primus allowed him to do that, whereas Patricio Pitbull is not going to allow him to do that. Pitbull is a super, super crafty fighter. And he's an all-action guy himself, right? He moves forward. He throws big bombs. I don't think Chandler's just going to be able to sit back and rely on his wrestling. And Pitbull's another one of those guys too, where his hips are great, his reactions are great. He's really tough to take down. He's tough to keep down. I think Pitbull's going to make. I think Pitbull is going to make Chandler fight a Chandler style fight, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do. The thing is, with this fight, is I could see it going 5 rounds, or I could also honestly see either one of them knocking each other out in the first round. You know what I mean? There's so much. Either I wouldn't be surprised if you see them kind of get after it right away, and you see Pitbull waving in Chandler, trying to get him into a brawl, and Chandler obliges. I also wouldn't be surprised if you see Chandler take him down and really try to slow it down. But you also bring up a great point that Pitbull is not going to just be held down for sure. Man, I don't know. This might be one of the better fights of the entire weekend,
if not the best.
Yeah,
this is a really good fight. I lean Chandler. I think I lean Chandler by decision. But like you said, man, I think either one of these guys could finish the other. I'm just such a big Michael Chandler guy. I think he does the job here. But again, if you told me Pitbull wins this fight, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I lean Chandler by decision. I'm looking. I mean, Pitbull, his last loss was his only stoppage loss, and that was a leg injury against Bendo. Um, Man, what a great fight! This is Bellator at its peak. Two homegrown Bellator talents that are absolutely like at the top 10 fighters in the world doing battle here for a belt.
Talk about homegrown talent. Both of these guys debuted in Bellator in 2010.
Wow. Yeah.
9 years ago.
Both those guys are responsible for building the brand, to be honest.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. We have a big Kona main event too. The welterweight tournament semifinals. We have Douglas Lima taking on Michael Venom Page. Still, I mean, we talked about it a bunch that Michael Page hasn't fought the level of competition we've wanted him to. We thought we were going to get all the answers last fight against Paul Daly, and I still feel like I don't know where Michael Page is at. It was such a weird fight. We expected just this, one of these guys to get knocked out, right? And it was more of Paul Daly turning into a shitty wrestler, which none of us expected. So I still feel like we have a shit ton of answers or questions still about Michael Page. But I think we know who Douglas Lima is, and I really strongly favor Douglas Lima in this fight. Do you have the odds for this fight, by the way?
I do.
And the Chandler fight, honestly.
So going back a little bit, Chandler is a minus 230 favorite against Pitbull.
Wow, that's pretty steep.
Seems a little wide, yeah.
A little steep, yeah.
And then Lima is a minus 240 favorite against MVP, which
I agree with that.
Or even a bigger. It's crazy that those two fights are lined about the same or basically the same, but Lima feels like a much, much bigger favorite than Chandler.
Yeah, man, Douglas Lima just seems like one of those fearless fighters to me. Like, he's so tough, he's so mentally strong. Whereas Paul Daly, I think, was a little bit, I don't know if the pressure got to him. I don't necessarily think he was afraid of MVP, but maybe the pressure got to him. So he really changed up his game plan. But, man, Douglas Lima chops those leg kicks. He throws hard punches. He's got good defense. He can wrestle. He's a good grappler. I really see him putting a hurting on MVP. I see him finishing MVP by the third round. I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he gets a finish on the mat, like in the first or second round. And you said it, the first thing you said here is that, Lima will hold it together mentally. So many guys tend to get kind of broken or flustered against MVP. I really don't think that's going to happen here. Just like you said, I think Lima's maybe going to land a few leg kicks on the feet. Then I think he's going to take him down and just work MVP on the mat.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think he punches his ticket to the Bellator tournament finals. AJ McKee getting a big step up in competition, taking on Pat Curran. It's long overdue for McKee, who's got, I think, hasn't all of McKee's fights been in Bellator, right? He's 13-0 every fight in Bellator.
Yep, that's right.
But he needs a big step up in competition. This is it. Name-wise, at least. We haven't seen Pat Curran in a while. Looking at his record, it looks like his last fight was October 6, 2017. So we haven't seen him in a while, but what we do know about Pat Curran is at one time he was one of the best fighters in the world, not only in Bellator. They had that triangle of him, Daniel Strauss, and Pitbull going on for a long time. I just don't know where Pat Curran's at right now. Didn't he flirt with retirement for a little bit?
I believe so, yeah. And he owns his own gym. Like he doesn't need to fight anymore necessarily. I don't know, man. This is a hard fight for me to get a read on, just because, like you said, it's a huge step up in competition for AJ McKee. And then on the flip side is we haven't seen Pat Curran in quite a while. So I don't know. This is a very interesting fight. Definitely one that I will be tuning in closely to watch. I think just off the top of my head, I favor McKee just because he's been fresher and he appears to be a very, very good athlete. Talented on the feet as well as on the mat, good boxing. But at the same time, like he's never fought a vet quite like this. So I don't really know where I lean on this fight, to be honest.
I lean McKee just because he's been active. We've seen him more recently. And again, I don't know where Pat Curran's at, but I mean, if the Pat Curran of old shows up, it's going to be really interesting because Pat Curran was a very good fighter. And I'm sure he still is, but I slightly favor McKee here.
Yeah, I'd like to see it hit the mat because we know Curran can grapple with the best of them. I'd really like to see how McKee can handle himself on the mat.
I'm sure it might. Honestly, he's
a good wrestler himself.
He's not a bad. He's a good wrestler too. So we'll see. The last two fights probably on the main card. Jake Hager, also known as Jack Swagger, is making his return. He's fighting TJ Jones, who is 0-1 as a pro. I don't know anything about TJ Jones, but it looks like his last fight. He's 0-1 and his last fight was in 2015. So who knows? I thought Jake Hager looked actually pretty good in his debut. Again, he fought a handpicked opponent, which I'm sure this guy is too, but I thought he looked pretty good. And also Taiwan Claxton is returning, taking on 3-0 James Bennett. Taiwan Claxton, it's almost like a human highlight reel. The guy's a freak athlete. I've actually wrestled with him before. He's a really good wrestler, really nice guy. So it'd be interesting to see him back. Pretty sure he's going to be on the main card along with Jack Swagger.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he's the first fight on the main card.
So, yeah, we have a big weekend of MMA coming up. Thursday PFL, Saturday Bellator, Saturday UFC. Ooh, another head-to-head. I see Bellator's been doing that a lot more lately.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'll have to figure out how exactly I'm going to get access to the UFC pay-per-view. But like head-to-head, if I have DAZN, right? So I have access to this Bellator card, not for free because I'm paying for the subscription service, but head-to-head, like, I actually think I might be watching Bellator instead of UFC.
Yeah, so exactly. So if you look at the top three fights from each card are the main, those are the big ones. I mean, if you look top three fights against each other, like, man, it's pretty damn even. Like, Chandler Pitbull, Lima Page, AJ McKee, Pat Curran, or Rose Andrade, Anderson Cannonier, Aldo Volkanovski. Ah, man. I still might
UFC.
lean like...
Well, yeah.
Dude, I don't know.
The thing is,
like, then I look back at this Bellator card and I'm like, dude, Pitbull Chandler, love it. Lima Page, fucking love it. But then, like, Aldo Volkanovski, Andrade Rose, I love those two. I don't know. I think they're both great.
Yeah, this will definitely be a situation where I'm watching one and then kind of following along on Twitter for the other. And then first thing Sunday morning, I'm probably going to watch whatever event I missed. Because like you said, those top three fights on either card, I'm super interested in.
Yeah, man, they're great. Hey, man, before we go, there was a couple big fights that were announced. Koji Horiguchi is going to be taking on Darian Caldwell now for the bantamweight title. I believe that is at the June 14th show with Rory MacDonald. Yeah, it is. June 14th, Rory MacDonald, Neiman Gracie, headlined by Chael versus Lyoto. And then, yeah, Darian Caldwell, Koji Horiguchi. It can't be headlined by... Wait, what? They can't do Chael Sonnen and Lyoto Machida as the main event over those two fights. Are they really doing that?
Ooh, that I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
What? It's on ShareDog. It says it's the main event.
Oof. Well, they still have time to change that. I was gonna say though, fucking props to both Horiguchi and Caldwell, because like both guys, Horiguchi has a win over this guy, and now he's gonna go fight him in the United States. Caldwell has a loss, which a lot of the North American fans probably are unaware of, to be honest. And he's putting his fucking Bellator belt on the line against a guy that he just lost to. So props to both those guys for making it happen.
Yeah, dude, I love that fight. I loved it when they first fought. I love it now. I love that it's in Bellator. I love that there's the relation between Ryzen and Bellator. Freaking awesome. And then also we now know what's going to happen in the heavyweight division. Daniel Cormier is going to rematch Stipe Miocic, I believe, in August. I mean, way too early, but that's a big one. That's interesting.
It was just announced too, I think, while we were recording this. On that same card, they're going to try to do Romero and Paulo Costa again.
Okay, that's a big one. But that's one where I'm like, all right, I'll believe it when it happens, because
yes,
those two dudes are always pulling out of fights and getting popped for drugs and whatnot.
Yes, 100% agree.
I mean, Daniel, it's going to be interesting with Daniel Cormier because I think if he wins, there's a real possibility that we might get that John Jones third fight, or he might just retire as one of the GOATs. But if he loses, I think that eliminates the John Jones fight, and I think he retires anyways. So a lot of intrigue to that one.
Yeah, we'll talk about it as the summer progresses, I'm sure. But, I was not super pumped about Stipe getting an automatic rematch here. But, yeah, what are we going to do?
I don't know, man. I'm for it.
The thing is,
I like it.
There's Francis Ngannou out there.
Yeah, Francis Ngannou.
I guess, and I don't know. I would have preferred Stipe at least fight one more time to earn a title shot after he was just so quickly dispatched. But who knows?
Oh yeah, I guess I'm in for it, and I really want John Jones to win or Daniel Cormier to win just so he could fight John Jones again because we need that.
That's what we want. Yes, that's the bottom line.
I think we got everything, man.
Yeah, it's all the big stuff.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. So thank you all for listening. We are back. Enjoy the fights this weekend, starting on Thursday with PFL. Saturday, we got Bellator. We have UFC. Follow us everywhere we are to be followed. YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, CombatDocket.com. Thank you all for listening. We'll talk to you all next week.